Welcome to Roxy's Craft Studio. Today I would like to share with you the process video to make this alternate Valentine's Day gift. This has been inspired by Marta's work from Marimi's Small Art. Her work is fantastic and so inspirational. I have started this project with a blank 5 by 7 inch canvas. I've taken an old piece of cardboard which is about half the size of my canvas, and I've trimmed it down to size, and now I'm ripping the edges of the cardboard to give it a not very even effect. I'm looking for sort of rough edge. I'm not looking for a perfect piece of cardboard. This is going to form the base of my mixed media work today. Now I'm tying some thread around the edge of all around the piece of cardboard. Ultimately, in the end, this wasn't the best choice, and you'll see later that I get to a point where I actually chop it and rejoin it. So I would actually recommend leaving this part until the end and wrapping it around the entire canvas if you are wishing to repeat this. I am now going to glue this onto my canvas just using the hot glue. I found this worked best. And I sort of found that it didn't stick as well as I was hoping. So already I'm adding some more twine around the entire canvas just to keep it together. I realized that this was a flaw at the start, but I really wasn't sure that I could rip it up again and restart. But in hindsight, I would have just gone, put the cardboard on, and let it be from there instead of doing this at this point. And I would have added the twine on much later. I'm just going on the edges to fill the gaps because there's a gap caused by the twine behind the cardboard. So I just want to make sure that that's secure, because the next step that I'm going to do is I want to paint this canvas so you can't see any of these colours because I want it to be pure black. And so here I am painting this everything black all over the twine, all over the cardboard. I even do the edges of this, just everything goes black. I know this isn't the best way to start. I just was really looking for something that was dark and deep, more of an opposite to Valentine's Day, more for the people that may not enjoy Valentine's Day as much, or if you just love steampunk, yeah, this is also what the effect that I was trying to achieve here. So the next step is I've taken a piece of cheesecloth and I'm using some gel medium just to stick it down. It's just an old piece, so I tried to play around with different colours. But yeah, in the end I plan on painting it black, so this is why I've just used whatever was there. And I plan to add these cogs on as well for an extra layer of effect. Now you can see me ripping up the side strings a little bit because I realized that painting them on was a bad idea, and again why I would add these last. You can see I've cut the middle ones as well. I just got really frustrated with it, and during my non-crafty time I just said I can't look at this anymore because I need to add more layers. So I've just chopped them and I've just had to go with it from there. But if I was to repeat this, I would be adding them last or near the end after I've added all the layers to my central section there. So you can see I've accidentally cut it as well, but I just made it work by sticking it back down later. I'm adding now some die cut cogs. It's just a Craft die that has in the shape of a cluster of cogs. And I'm just sticking that on. I've used black, I was a bit worried whether I should be or not. It was just a piece of spare paper. You could use any colour here because again I have painted over this in black. You can see here I am just covering everything again in black. I do plan to highlight this later using the dry gessoing effect. But yeah, you'll see me moving things around and painting it black, hoping just to get to the right effect that I'm looking for, which I'm looking for lots of layers, but not too bulky. Now I'm going to add a little bit of texture paste through this Craft stencil that I have. I realised at the time that my texture paste is getting a little bit old, and you'll see that it's really not doing what you would expect texture paste to. But I don't like to waste my texture paste. This one that I use is my favourite. It's the Ranger texture paste, and after trying this one I have never gone back and tried to use anything else. I always get this. It is more expensive, but I don't find it runs under the stencils. I use it more often on scrapbooking pages. I mean, in this instance it's not so much of an issue because I will paint over it again later, or colour it, and yeah, the effect that I'm looking for is not perfect, so it's still okay. You'll see me next. I will open a new jar, and you can see the difference between the dried up texture paste and the new one. The new one's much easier to use. So next I'm colouring a piece of paper to be red. I've just used some red ink, and then I've also used a berry coloured spray, which is also red, to really get a deep red colour for this heart. You can see that I've tried gold, I've tried adding the red after, and it's just not working. So what I've done is I have instead gone for a really dark red as my base, and then added my stamp on top because I knew I wanted the heart. This is an AB Studios studio stamp. Absolutely fantastic stamp. I would highly recommend any AB Studios. Not only are they rubber, which are easy to clean, but they're also very, very intricate. You can see here that I am adding some Distress Oxide ink to my stamp and stamping it directly onto the prepared red part of the cardstock. I am now adding embossing powder, and I always collect my used embossing powder back in the jar, and now you can see it beautifully change as I heat it with the heat gun. I have used the Oxide ink because it's an ink that stays wet for a little bit longer, and this is best for the embossing powder to stick and stay for enough time for you to heat it. I am now fussy cutting the heart and all its little intricate pieces. There's little knobs on the top and grooves in the side and all that. I really, really love this stamp. I'm so happy how it turned out. Next I'm going to ink the edges because I don't want any white on here. I want it to look as solid red as possible, and I often do this to get rid of any white edges in my work. Now that the texture paste is dried and all the black paint as well, I'm adding red to the texture paste because I thought that it would look really good. In hindsight, it might have been better to add it to the texture paste as paint or as ink before I added it, but I was planning on just painting it pure white. Painting it pure black. And then now I realise that the red's too much, so I'm going over with the Distress Oxide. It's a black soot one, just to really darken it, because I decided that I do like a bit of colour in there, but not too much. Now I am applying some sort of light edges instead of shadows, using the dry gessoing technique. So I've just taken some white gesso, I rubbed it on that white piece of page to the right of my work until it's really dry, and then I'm rubbing it again over all the areas that I sort of want to highlight, so the top of the corrugated cardboard and on top of the cogs, so that they can actually be seen again. And I think I also add some to the texture paste section as well. And I noticed that when I was doing this, my black paint wasn't quite dry, and I was able to blend that in, and it ended up being a little more of a grey colour, not just pure white, and I think this adds a great effect to this. Now I would like to add a shimmer to the work and give it a little bit of colour. It's not really colourful at the moment. So I've just taken my finger, and while the gesso is still wet, I have just used it. It's perfect pearls, just one of the gold ones, and I'm just using my finger to rub on all the areas. I do go back later and add some more, because I wanted it to be a little more gold. Once I've added other bits and pieces to this canvas, I realised that it needed to have more colour than just the black and white and a little bit of gold. So now I'm deciding on which cogs I want to use. So I have a bronze coloured cogs and gold coloured cogs to my left, but I decided that I had enough colours, so I knew I was using the red heart. I knew I wanted the gold, because the skull that I've chosen to put on the heart is also gold, and that's where the idea from using the perfect pearls in the gold also came from. So I'm keeping the theme to be essentially black, gold and red, and it has a little bit of highlights in the white grey colour. You can see me trying to tuck some of the cogs under the string, and this is again why I would recommend adding the string last, because, or not last, but near the end, so you know what you're looking for. I've also added a little bit of white gesso to the cord that I've cut in the middle, and now I'm applying some red ink to it, to give it sort of like a heartstrings effect in the end once the heart goes on and everything's stuck down again. I've also decided that I wanted to add a little bit of red into the canvas as well, not just the heart and the strings, but it's only a little bit so it's not too obvious. Next, I am taking some cheesecloth, and obviously white isn't going to go with my theme, so I'm trimming it down to what I think might be a reasonable size, and using a gloved hand and the black Kaiser mist, I'm spraying it and then squishing it and spraying it, because I don't have much of this black Kaiser mist left, and I don't want to waste it, and I don't really want to get it anywhere either, so that's where I thought this rubber glove technique could become like really useful. And as you can see that it comes out quite nice. It didn't take too long to dry either, so I thought that was quite good. So I'm just doing a quick clean up of my glove using a baby wipe, because I thought that to add a little more of the perfect pearls, because the gesso I used last time wasn't quite dry. Now I'm adding a little bit of gel medium to my rubber glove and adding it to where I think I might want to add some of the perfect pearls, because I found the perfect pearls will sort of fall off if it isn't stuck down with a little bit of moisture. I haven't tried to use the gel media before to do this, but I found it quite useful, and it's stuck quite well. You can see again, I'm just applying this with my finger. I wasn't too sure if there was a better way, but I thought it turned out perfect, so why add some extra tools to my stash? So next I am checking the placement of where I want my heart, and I want it really central as an effect, but I also don't want it just hanging out there, especially because the skull charm that I've used has a hole in it, so I feel like that hole needs to be filled, and what better to use than the black twine that I'm incorporating into the other part of the canvas. I then ended up hot gluing the two strings together and just folding it behind the heart. But before I did that, I've added some Kaiser mist, some of the brown Kaiser mist and the gold Kaiser mist, to give a little bit of an extra highlight effect. I've also used just my heat gun to dry this a little bit instead of waiting for too long for it to dry. I've also dried the cheesecloth a little bit with the heat gun as well. As you can see, I'm using the scissors to hold it down because it's quite lightweight. So next I'm looking at what the best effect for the heart will be with the cheesecloth. So I'm sort of just playing around to get the right feel for it now that it's dry. The heat gun worked quite well. I decided that I wanted to cut it into two diamonds essentially and place them sort of on diagonal behind the heart to give it a couple of extra layers. But before I stuck it down, which I thought I would do straight away, I wanted to add a little bit more gold. So I've just used the tip of the sprayer to add a bit more gold to my canvas. This was not the best option. I should not have been lazy, and I should have taken a paintbrush or two and carried out the splatter effect. I think this would have worked much better. I could have used a larger paintbrush than what I did last time to get larger spots, because this sort of looked a little messy compared to what I actually truly wanted, but that's alright. Now I am focusing on adding my cheesecloth behind my heart, and I'm doing this because I don't want it to get lost. I want it to pop out from the background that I've created. And I'm just gluing it on with hot glue. I have never actually used hot glue on the cheesecloth before, but I found it worked really well, and especially because I'm not worried about how thick this gets, just like a little bit worried. I don't want it to be excessive. Now I've moved on to gluing those strings back down again. and I'm just trying to get the right effect because I don't want them to go straight down all of them. I sort of want them to go over each other a little bit and be a little bit connected and intertwined. Yeah, that's the sort of effect that I'm going for here. And I knew that the hot glue would be the only thing that I can use to hold it down in exactly the correct place. So I have decided to add more red to the strings. I've just used the Cheesecloth red ink pad to do this. Next I am checking where my heart will go and whether the cheesecloth is the right shape, and I'm sort of considering what to do with the strings at this time as well. So I've decided that I need to trim the cheesecloth a little bit, and I just sort of sporadically do this to give it a bit more shape around the heart, but not taking off too much at the same time. So next I'm taking some little cut up pieces of cardboard and I am layering them up to be able to bring the heart above the strings without using too much hot glue. So I'm just sticking these down simply with hot glue, just really simple. Then for the final step, I am hot gluing the heart to those pieces of cardboard, and then the canvas is complete.